Good evening, everyone, and I would welcome the Mayor, all members, and our guests to the Old Town Hall, Stratford, for our themed meeting. The theme of this council meeting is Growth with a Purpose, Homes, Jobs, and Inclusive Communities. I would like to welcome the members of the public and press who are physically attending or watching on YouTube. The meeting is being filmed for broadcast on YouTube. Please note that the cameras are focused on everyone within the meeting. I would like to take this opportunity to remind the public that to enable the council to conduct its business, if there are interruptions at today's meeting, I will ask the individual or individuals to stop and give a warning. If this continues, I will give a second and final warning, and should the disruption continue, I will have to ask security to remove the person or group from the council chamber and will adjourn this meeting. Members of council, please can I ask that you indicate when you wish to speak by raising your physical hand. I would like to advise members that in order to comply with the allocated time for speakers, if you go beyond your allocated time, you will be automatically muted. Please can I ask members and officers to introduce themselves when you're speaking. I would like to take this opportunity to ask everyone to turn their mobile phones to silent. The member attendance book will be circulated to you during the meeting, so please ensure you sign it. You don't have to go up and sign it over there. We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the alarm sounds, please remain calm and follow the instructions of the town hall staff. The fire assembly point is accessed via West Ham Lane. I'm now moving to agenda item 1, which is apologies for absence. I've received apologies for absence for this evening's meeting from councillors Liz Cronin, Stephanie Garfield, Terry Paul, Madeline Sali-Pontin. Are there any other apologies for absence from councillors to be recorded? Councillor Kamali, first.
Councillor Kamali, Majority Whip, Assistant Whip. Got Councillor Steve Brasho, Anthony McCoy, Stephanie Garfield.
So sorry, just a little slowly. Okay, can you start again?
I can. Okay, I've got Steve Brasho, Anthony McCoy, Stephanie Garfield, Jennifer Bailey, Caroline Adaja, Marian Dawood, Anam Islam, Sarah Ruiz, Caroline Corbyn, and Salim Patel.
Thank you very much. Councillor Naqvi?
Hi, Councillor MD Nazrul Islam.
Thank you. And Councillor Keeling?
Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you very much. Have you got them all?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm now moving to item 2, which is declarations of interest. Are there any members wishing to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or any other interest they may have in any matter which is to be considered at this meeting? Councillor Morris, and then Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I have to exclude myself for the agenda item regarding Elwa, as I sit on the board of Elwa.
Thank you very much.
The East London Waste Authority.
Thank you. Councillor Patel?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be excusing myself for the relevant item, as previously mentioned by Councillor Morris, as my role of a member and also the Chair of the East London Waste Authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now moving to item 3, minutes of the last meeting. I move the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Council held on 9th October 2025. Do I have a seconder, please? Okay, thank you, Councillor Keeling. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those against? Any abstentions? The minutes are agreed. I'm now moving to item 4, deputations. There have been no requests for deputations to this meeting of the Council. I now move to item 5, petitions. Are there any members over here who have petitions? I understand, Councillor Vaughan, you have a petition.
This is a petition signed by 3,000 residents about an adoption case where the mother's circumstances have changed. I'd like to let you know, Chair, that the mother lives in my ward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vaughan. As stated in the Constitution, this petition will be referred to the relevant corporate director for their attention and response, and responses acknowledging the petition and setting out of how the matter will be dealt with will be sent to you within 10 working days. Have you given your petition? Yes, okay, thank you. Councillor, which councillor? Okay, Councillor Higgins. Just to let everyone know that, is that okay? Councillor Higgins is going to be sitting and
Thanks, Chair. I've hurt my ribs, so I'm going to stay here if that's okay, Council. Councillor Nate Higgins, Stratford Olympic Park Ward. I'm notifying Council about a petition from residents in my ward asking for, in relation to the lack of a mosque within the E20 area. There's no permanent place of worship for the Muslim community within the Olympic Park. 542 residents have signed a petition asking for the council's help. To give the council some context, a number of private landlords in the area of business space or non-residential space refuse to let to faith institutions in the area. I think that's wrong. Residents think that's wrong. We've had some help from the administration on this, but we need to keep fighting for it. So this petition is part of that. Thank you.
thank you very much. Could you give your petition to Pauline, who is coming towards you?
It's a digital one. I'll get that submitted after this. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Again, as stated in the Constitution, these will be referred to the relevant corporate directors, and you will be sent a response within 10 working days. So thank you very much for that. I move on to item 6, which is questions by the public. There is one question from a member of the public that has been accepted under Rule 11 of Part 4 of the Constitution. The question is from Shabd Pyari, and it's outlined on page 39 of the published agenda, and the answer is printed in the supplementary pack. I invite Shabd Pyari to approach the lectern and ask their question, and Mayor Fiaz will give a verbal response. Shabd.
Hi, thank you for considering my question. My question is regarding Royal Victoria Dock Footbridge. The lift of the Royal Victoria Footbridge linking Silvertown with Custom House have been out of service for several years now, making the footbridge inaccessible for many. Plans to repair the lift or building a new bridge, towards which the council agreed to contribute funding, originally due for completion this year, and intend to serve the Silvertown Quay housing and commercial development have not commercialized. Fixing the accessibility issue will help the regeneration and growth of the Silvertown area while making the crossing more inclusive. For regarding this, what is the council doing, along with the GLA's Royal Docks team and the developer Lendlease, to fixing this lift for the short term, and push the new bridge project forward in the medium term? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I call on Mayor Fiaz to give a verbal response.
And thank you for the question. Just for the benefit of those that may also be watching online, I'm going to read out the written response because I know it's been a very vexed issue for residents living in that part of our borough. The Royal Victoria Dock Footbridge was built in the year 2000. It's owned and managed and maintained by the Royal Docks Management Authority, RODMA. In recent years, RODMA has invested significant sums, approximately £150,000 to £200,000 per year, in lift repairs, stairway improvements, and replacing the wooden decking. However, due to the age and design of the lifts, they have experienced repeated failures, resulting in unreliable service, as you yourself and other residents that live in and around the Royal Docks have experienced as well. Despite ongoing repair efforts, the costs have become prohibitive, and a decision was made to close the lifts in March 2023. To address this accessibility issue, the Greater London Authority, that's the GLA, entered into an agreement with the Silvertown Partnership, the development consortium delivering Silvertown Quays. Under this agreement, the consortium will fund upgrades to the existing bridge Discussions are underway between the GLA and the developer to unlock this funding to make the bridge accessible again and as soon as possible. In terms of the proposed new bridge, in September 2025, the Cabinet and myself agreed to allocate 6.9 million of Section 106 funding to support delivery of a new pedestrian and cycle bridge across the dock. The Council will enter into a grant funding agreement with the Silvertown Partnership, who will deliver the new crossing. This new bridge will provide a vital north-south link for pedestrians and cyclists connecting Custom House and Canning Town with Silvertown, West Silvertown, North Woolwich and the wider Royal Docks. It will serve the growing population and improve sustainable transport options across the opportunity area, which is what the Royal Docks is designated as such in London planning terms. Officers are working closely with the consortium to accelerate delivery. It is anticipated that a formal agreement on funding, milestones and timeline will be reached by the summer of 2026. Delivery will also be linked to the wider schemes, planning consent and infrastructure works on the south side of the dock. Construction is therefore expected to start in early 2027, with the bridge opening to the public by summer 2029.
Thank you. That concludes this item, and I will now move to the next item. Item 7, announcements by the Chair. Over the past month, I've had the privilege of representing Newham at a number of important civic and community events. I attended the annual London Mayors Association Civic Service at Westminster Abbey, which was a moment of reflection on public service and our shared commitment to the city. I joined the Bangladesh Italian Association celebration event, a wonderful reminder of the diversity that makes our borough so vibrant. At the Stratford Youth Zone, I took part on a panel on youth empowerment and European human rights, discussing how we can build fairer futures together. I also attended the Diwali celebrations at the Indian High Commission and paid my respects at the Remembrance Service at the East Ham Cenotaph in Central Park, honoring all who made the ultimate sacrifice for peace. I would like to take this opportunity to send our best wishes to all those who've been injured in the Cambridgeshire train attack on 1st of November. Our thoughts are with everyone who are affected by these incidents, including the emergency services who responded. Newham Civic Awards. Nominations are still open for the Newham Civic Awards 2025, closing at midnight on Sunday, the 16th of November. There are so many brilliant Newham residents who can be celebrated. Recipients are chosen from hundreds of nominations and stories of inspiring individuals, organizations, and groups who are making positive changes and contributions to our community. So I urge you all to please go to the Newham Council homepage and search on Civic Awards to make your nomination. Please don't delay, nominate today. Wow, that sounded good. Okay, November is also Islamophobia Awareness Month. It was first launched through an event held in the London Muslim Centre in November 2012. Now, every November, communities and organizations take part. This year, the theme is Flip the Script, and it's about challenging narratives that misrepresent Muslims. I encourage everyone to look at the website islamophobiaawareness.org for more details on taking part. Interfaith Week 2025 is going to take place from Sunday the 9th to Sunday the 16th of November. The three aims of this week are to strengthen good interfaith relations at all levels, to increase awareness of the different and distinct faith communities in the UK and in Newham, particularly celebrating and building on the contributions which their members make to their neighborhoods and to the wider society, and also to increase understanding between people of religious and non-religious beliefs. Tomorrow, 11th of November, is Armistice Day, which has been observed every year since 1919, with a 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. on 11th of November across the nation. Wherever you are tomorrow, please stop and take 2 minutes to reflect. Mute your phone and for just 2 minutes pause and pay your respects to all those who have lost their lives in conflicts past and present. We also send our best wishes to members of our community who are celebrating holy days and observances this month and will be celebrating next month as well. And finally, I want to send our thoughts and prayers to the Newham Caribbean community and all those who have been affected by Hurricane Melissa, which last month brought devastating damage to Jamaica and the Caribbean. Thank you. I will now move to item 8, which is announcements by the Mayor Roxana Fiaz. I invite Mayor Roxana Fiaz to address the Council and make any announcements. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Evening, members of the public and officers, including our newest addition to our corporate leadership board, Maria Christofi. She's our Deputy Chief Executive leading on the Council's Transformation and Modernisation Programme. And yesterday she joined me when the Borough came together, as we do each year, to remember and honour those who have died in their service to our country and the Commonwealth. And tomorrow, as the Chair of Council has said, with schools from across the Borough, we will be marking Armistice Day. We remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, for our communities, for their friends, family and neighbours. At a time when people have sought to stir hate and divide, this reminds us of how people of all nationalities, faiths and backgrounds come together around common values, shared ideals and a shared identity, no matter what their differences. And in this incredible borough, we celebrate our communities and diversity, and we celebrate all those things that unite us. And today we will be welcoming Sunda Katwala back to full council to update on the work on the Britain Futures Commission on Inclusion and Belonging in Multi-Ethnic Newham, about how all our residents can live well together. And over the past couple of weeks, I've been speaking to many residents directly myself, as I ordinarily do as part of our budget challenge sessions, about what matters to them and their priorities. We all want clean, safe streets, green parks and spaces, vibrant town centres, but members will know of the exceptional financial pressures the council faces as a result of rising demand for temporary accommodation and social care. Things every council in London and across the country are grappling with. Here in Newham, we face the brunt of London's housing crisis, exacerbating the challenges we face. And as we saw from the latest statistics published by government, East London boroughs continue to suffer greatest from deprivation, adding to the challenge we face and the response we need to make. We welcome government's recognition of the need for a more fair system of local government funding and look forward to the outcome of the Fair Funding Review later this year. But we cannot duck our responsibilities to set a legally balanced budget, one that addresses the challenges our people face and builds on the strides we've made in building a fairer Newham. Doing so will mean changing how the council works, the services we deliver and how we deliver them. Change is not an option, but we must and will place the fair future of our residents in this borough at the heart of our deliberations. To bury our heads, ignore the issues or think that government or someone else will sort them out is a dereliction of our duty. Yes, we will continue campaigning, but members will have seen the possible options officers have identified as part of the budget process, measures identified or already implemented by other councils. Cabinet will publish its own budget proposals on December the 22nd, and this will necessarily involve many difficult and challenging decisions, but it will also be a budget that is true to this administration's values and principles, and the values and principles of me, equality, social justice and fairness, and a budget that has our people and their needs, as I said, at its heart. And fundamental to that is building an inclusive, good economy that works for everyone, including those at work. That's why I am pleased to announce this evening that of the options presented by officers, I will not be countenancing the withdrawal of the nationally agreed terms and conditions of our hard-working staff or remove Christmas shutdown days for them. Like the residents I met this morning at the launch of London's Living Wage Week 2025, who are now being paid the London Living Wage because of a heartfelt and passionate campaign over the years. They were pleased but they acknowledged that there was still so much more to do. With 23% of residents paid below the London living wage in our borough alone. And full council today gives us an opportunity to hear and debate this administration's approach to creating growth with a purpose, creating a better today and tomorrow for our residents. As Attlee's post-war Labour government vowed to win the peace for the people with a prosperous peace, this Labour mayor, this Labour administration continues with that mission. It is at the heart of this council, formed 60 years ago, progress with the people, and it remains ever more true today. No matter how difficult the challenge, we will meet it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm moving now to item 9, any updates from Cabinet members. Any member of the Cabinet who wishes to update the Council will be allowed to speak. There shall be no debate or questions allowed. Does any member of the Cabinet wish to speak? You will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, three minutes?
3.
3, okay. Mayor, fellow councillors, I wanted to update you on progress in relation to the social housing regulator and our Improving Your Homes programme. So last month was 1 year on since the regulator's C4 judgment issued against Newham's Housing Services, and that judgment exposed significant failures in our delivery of housing support and rightly prompted us to apologise to our tenants and leaseholders. Residents deserve safe, decent homes and excellent landlord services, and they deserve a council that listens, learns and acts. And that's because housing is the bedrock from which so many life chances flow. Safe, decent housing provides the space for learning, for work, for labourlessness, for community, and an absence of it harms the fabric of our communities and our societies. So since October last year, we've committed to a full transformation of our housing services. In May, we launched Improving Your Homes, our improvement plan, which sets out the actions required to become a compliant provider and deliver a service which meets both regulatory standards and resident expectations. We've made some key progress. Proportion of electrical testing within the last 10 years has gone up from 60% at the time of the inspection to 94%. We've completed all the overdue repairs that were highlighted at the time of inspection, and now 90% of our non-emergency repairs are completed on time. And we've strengthened real safety measures, with 99% of homes now having working carbon monoxide detectors and 94% having working smoke alarms. We've nearly halved the amount of overdue fire risk actions that were identified at the time of the inspection, with enhanced safety support while longer-term works are carried out. Resident voice is very firmly at the heart of the work we're doing, with a new resident involvement strategy launched in September, which was co-produced with residents and our Resident Challenge Board, who critically assess our improvement plan and who now sit on our governance groups to help drive our improvement journey. We are learning more about our buildings and our tenants, particularly those who are most vulnerable, and that includes carrying out thousands of tenancy audits. We also have external scrutiny playing a really vital role. That's mirroring the findings from the regulatory inspection, but those external partners are working with us to shape it moving forward. And we're improving the way we handle complaints. Colleagues, looking ahead, our next step is to further transform how the service operates, including forensic approaches to data and systems, a new performance framework, and a target operating model. We have to focus on what matters most to our residents, and we are getting there, but it will take some time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Young. I will now move on to item 10, which is announcements by the Interim Chief Executive. I invite you to speak.
Thank you very much, Chair. There are 2 items I'd like to draw to the Council's attention. The first is to say that the in recent weeks, we've undertaken a consultation with the Council's top 3 tiers of management regarding proposed changes to the senior management structure of the Council. This has been something that's been considered for some time, a year and a half, and the consultation on a new permanent top structure has now concluded. We therefore have now a confirmed permanent senior management structure, and I'll be writing to all members of the Council to describe this structure, and also I'll present to members at an all members briefing later this year to answer any questions that you may have about the structure and the changes that have been made. The second thing, Chair, that I'd like to mention is that the Council is currently halfway through a fortnight's inspection of our children's services by Ofsted. Just to remind you, at the last inspection in 2022, the Council achieved an outcome of good, and that was a significant improvement from the previous inadequate outcome in 2019. So I know, Chair, that you and all members will hope that the outcome of the Ofsted inspection this time retains and hopefully builds on the good judgment that we achieved last time. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I move to item 11, which is Overview and Scrutiny Programme and Future Commissions. Councillor Hudson's update report is outlined from page 41 to 48 of the agenda pack. Councillor Hudson, you have up to 5 minutes to present your report, with another 5 minutes allocated in total for posing and answering questions. Your 5 minutes begins now.
Chair, Mayor, fellow councillors, residents of Newham. This evening, I provide an update on the essential activities undertaken by the London Borough of Newham scrutiny function since the full council meeting on the 9th of October. Here in full council, we all know that we have a collective duty as councillors, a profound responsibility to the families, the workers, the young people of the London Borough of Newham. That responsibility demands vigilance, integrity and focus. A focus not only on the immediate, but the future too. And I can report that your scrutiny committees have been upholding that standard, continuing the vital work of our annual scrutiny work programme. And we must all acknowledge that the challenges facing are immense. As councillors, as officers, as residents, we are navigating a period of significant pressure. At our October meeting, the Overview and Scrutiny Committee received the October Finance Review, and the numbers tell a stark story. They remind us that the Council is facing a projected budget gap of 53 million for the coming year, rising to almost 90 million by 2028-29. Let me be clear. These are not just numbers on a page. This is not abstract. This is a challenge that demands discipline, strategy and leadership. And this is why, especially in times like this, that scrutiny will ask difficult questions. And when decisions are brought before us, we must always demand proof of prudence, that every pound spent serves the public interest. In October, we showed that commitment when Overview and Scrutiny Committee requested the calling of the Cabinet decision on the Manor Park Gym. Access to safe, affordable spaces for physical activity demands a challenge in our borough. Access to leisure is important for improving the life outcomes and well-being for our residents. And we also know that the realities of our finances. Scrutiny referred that Manor Park Gym decision back to Cabinet for urgent reconsideration. Why? Why? Because we could not see sufficient evidence for £2.1 million discretionary spend at a time like this. And we were not satisfied that every other alternative funding source had been explored. In terms of financial challenges, we cannot make new, uncommitted, discretionary expenditure until we have a clear and credible strategy to close that £90 million gap. That is accountability. Accountability is not optional,
It is the purpose of this full council. Accountability is the essence of scrutiny. But accountability extends beyond spending and numbers. It applies to the way that we treat our residents. It requires us to ensure that our council processes are serving our residents with dignity and speed. In October, Scrutiny received an annual complaints report, and it highlighted necessary areas for improvement. We heard about serious issues that can be traced back to a letter received by me in July from the local government and social care ombudsman. Whilst dealing with some positives, the letter also described examples of delays resulting from Newham Council's failure to respond in a timely way to the Ombudsman's response for information. When a resident seeks resolution, they deserve efficiency and respect. We recommended that we implement changes. We must over-resource in certain areas to mitigate complaints and ensure that projects are successfully delivered. We must prioritise proactive communications with residents. Dealing with the Council's processes should not be harder than dealing with the original programme. Scrutiny is also mentioned in Newham Council's response to the non-statutory best value notice issued by MHCLG. Progress is being made. We acknowledge the work of our officers, and we must continue on this journey of improvement, considering every option. This is a continuous improvement journey that is essential to build up for the future. And scrutiny is crucial for this part. So in our commissions, we are tackling systemic issues that shape Newham, like scrutinising the Newham Council's emergency preparedness and council tax collection rates in preparing for the re-procurement of the waste disposal contract, in seeking better hours for our most vulnerable residents to avoid the cycle of repeated hospital admissions, conducting a site visit to
Councillor Hudson, I must stop you now.
Right.
Do you want to finish your sentence?
I'll finish my...
Finish your sentence.
Mm-hmm. In essence, I think Scrutiny's been doing an absolutely excellent job.
Excellent.
Tremendous improvements.
Okay. Thank you for that, Councillor Hudson. There is 5 minutes now allocated in total for posing and answering questions. Are there any questions for Councillor Hudson? Okay.
I will take questions on West End's performance last Saturday if you want.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hudson. We will move on to item 12, which is update from Newham Partners. I've agreed to receive tonight's partner, who is Sundar Katwala of British Futures, who will give an update on the work of the Commission for the Future of Belonging and Inclusion in Newham. There will be 10 minutes to address the Council, followed by 5 minutes for any member questions and answers. Thank you. Your 10 minutes begins now.
Thanks very much for inviting me back. I'm Sundar Katwala. I'm the Director of British Future, a charity and think tank, and I'm chairing the Commission on the Future of Inclusion and Belonging in Multi-Ethnic Newham. The commission is 10 of us, mostly residents of Newham, residents and experts in the field who live in Newham, a couple of us from outside Newham as well. And what we've been doing in the last 6 months is our first phase, which is a listening and engagement phase to get a sense of the state of inclusion and belonging in Newham, how it is felt to be for the residents, for other people working on them. That sets us up for our second phase, which is to make recommendations and offer advice about what should happen. Just to give you some headlines about the story of Newham, you know your borough very well. I'm not going to tell you things that surprise you, but just to tell you how it knits together. Foundationally, there's a confidence about the reality of Newham's diversity. There's a strong understanding that ethnic and faith diversity is very much part of what makes Newham Newham. It is, on the whole, welcomed as a benefit. That's partly because if you've chosen to come to Newham or you've chosen to stay in Newham, then you're someone who knows that living in Newham is about making diversity work. So that's I think, a foundational point. This is a reality, and that Newham is ahead of the curve in this city in this country, that everyone's got to make diversity work in the places we live. At the same time, there's an understanding that handling diversity well takes active efforts, and it especially takes active efforts when the pace of change is so fast. And so it can be particularly challenging to be trying to handle inclusion and belonging if you're the place of most arrival and most change and most churn in the population. And so that creates some pressures of change and the need to continually be working at getting that right and making it work fairly. People who've been here a long time, people who've recently settled, people who are arriving. We also heard about the way, even if there's a confidence about diversity here, this is in a context, a national context, a global context that's very volatile. We were talking to refugees and asylum seekers just, the Monday night after the Tommy Robinson rally in London, and so people who felt they'd had a very strong level of support from this place also felt there were things going on in this city, in this country that worried them and made it challenging. So I think that's another source of pressure and challenge. So I think a big part of the story is, while there are strengths in Newham, there's more to do to build inclusion, to build belonging, and there are different roles and responsibilities to play. I mean, clearly as the council, you have a leadership role here. And you've also, I think, got to try to do more to join up the efforts. I mean, everything you do as a council will involve inclusion and belonging in all the services you're delivering. So how that gets joined up. I think many people beyond the council play their role. There's a sense, I think, that faith matters here a lot, and that faith plays a role in bringing people together, but you need to extend that to newer groups that arrive. There are other groups that could do things around inclusion and belonging. The businesses, the new institutions, the universities and so on. Perhaps the schools do quite a lot. Some of the bigger institutions don't do as much as they could yet. Sometimes they're newer to the borough. And a really important point, I think, the residents themselves, they want to be part of the conversation, and they want to be part of building more inclusion in Newham. I think there's a feeling that people want to do more together, and a sense that we all can, in our neighbourhoods, in our lives, in our schools, in our workplaces. We can all drift back into our silos and groups, which can be good, but people want to not always do that and to have the opportunities to connect as well. And so they're very interested in, where are those opportunities? How do they hear about them? How do they happen? And how do they do more? Just to give you our exam questions to ourselves as a commission now, about taking that picture of foundational strengths but some challenges. What are the challenges of change to get this right? Where are the areas we might be looking to make recommendations? I think there's a leadership challenge about what is the vision that can be shared across policy areas, across priorities, across institutions. Why does this matter? What makes it work? What do we do more? I think there's a big challenge around resources. Money's tight. In local government. Obviously, that's a reality. So as a council, you've got to think about what you need to protect and what you need to prioritise. But there's another story about resources in Newham, which is, I think, this borough has assets that almost no other borough has in terms of other institutions that are here. I think there are untapped assets there. Perhaps there are some missing connections. That's because some of these institutions have arrived recently. They want to be proud to be here. They want to connect with communities. They're learning about how to get this right. So working out what you're going to do to set the vision, but what others can do to actually help populate the space, I think, is an important opportunity as well as a challenge. I would say if Newham was to be a model of inclusion and belonging for the rest of the city, for the rest of the country, one big part would be showing you know how to get arrival right, that you are the place of arrival in this city and in this country. There are other places of arrival in this city. There are other places like Newham in other capital cities. What does it mean to arrive to settle and to stay, but also you're a place of transition. What's the deal about what it means to come, not stay forever, but move on well, treat and respect the place well while you're here as a student, as a resident? There's, I think, a fairness deal that people want. I think to make that inclusion and belonging resilient, we're going to have to deal with the context of inequalities, of course, challenge hatred and prejudice. You've got to deal with, all of the hyperdiversity, all of the intersectionality of inclusion in a place like that. That means making it about everybody. And then the final question, really, is how can we do more together? Where does that happen? How do we issue that invitation in a way that is heard, in a way that is attractive, in a way that works? Part of that is a story about shared identity, the story of this place. What's it mean to go to school here, grow up here, live here, work here, arrive here? What should everyone going to school here, living here, know about this place and what it means for people who already lived here? What about the spaces we share? If there's one thing that annoys settled residents is if people don't respect the place and we see it in forms of litter and untidiness. That is showing a disrespect to a place that other people want to respect. How do we set that norm together? It's obviously your job as a council, but it's the job of the other residents as well. How do we value the other spaces we share? The libraries, we heard a lot about how important they were as places of connection. Our refugees told us a lot about how actually that being the space that a lot of their services happened made a difference. And how do we issue that invitation to connect at special moments of the year or throughout the year so that people feel they can do things? Obviously, there are lots of identities in Newham, the hyper-local, the places you live, East London, London, being in Britain as a whole. How do we issue that invitation to connect so that people get more of this opportunity to come in and find the things we do together? They're the questions we're asking ourselves in our next phase. Very interested to hear your views tonight and outside tonight. Just a little bit about process. Our initial timeline was to produce an interim report, maybe in the new year, telling the story of what we've heard so far and setting the challenges, and maybe a final report after May. It's been suggested it would be more useful if we brought our recommendations forward to March before Purdah. So we'll now be exploring the practicalities of how we would do that. So, not a surprising story, I'm sure, about, the opportunities and the challenges of being Newham in a changing and volatile world. Our job as a commission is to offer you advice and recommendations about what you can prioritise, but how you can unlock the potential of others to play their role in connecting and bringing Newham together. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to open this for questions. I have got Councillor Keeling, and then I've got Councillor Odoy. So, Councillor Keeling. And if we can be quick, we've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, looking forward to data purposes, if we can maybe ask questions on the relationships between people who are transient to the borough, and why they're transient, and what the reasons they actually decided to move, and whether that's in relation to the cost of living, the cost of rent, or the cost of council tax, or whatever it is, or even just their experience within the borough itself. But what's also more important is also the question of, what is their story in all this? Is it that they are deciding it was just part of my life, it was just a couple of years, or was it a part of their life that they really want to tell people about as well?
Thank you. Would you prefer if we took a few questions and then you responded? I think that would be better use of time. Councillor Odoy. If there's anyone else, please indicate. And I'll take the question.
Thank you very much for your speech. That was very insightful. I was interested in what you talked about, the challenge of some people having lived here for a long time and some people just coming and going, and that if we're trying to create those good behaviours around inclusion and belonging, there's a bit of a challenge there because of the different lengths of stay. So we already have a great reputation here in Newham as one of the most diverse boroughs in the country. We've got hundreds of languages spoken here. How can we add to that reputation where we're seen as a place of belonging, where we've got inclusion right, so that when people come, no matter how long they stay, they know our reputation and they aspire to live up to our reputation.
Thank you. I'm happy to take one more question. Otherwise, I'll ask Sundar to respond.
Yeah, thanks. They're very, very good questions. I mean, we'll look more at that data. I think the people who leave, there are obviously different reasons that was always the plan. We're not picking up a lot of, exit because it was a terrible place or so on. But we should look at that. I mean, I think you make the very, very good point that people who leave can be very good ambassadors for the place that they lived in and why they liked it. And so on, if they connect to it. I think this challenge of being a place of arrival where people stay and settle, bring their children up, become the new multi-generational people, and other people, they come because they're studying or they come and they move on. I think it might be quite helpful to just acknowledge that's a reality. It's not a failure that happens if it happens well. And in a way, there's a sort of fairness and good behaviour and good neighbours model of coming and moving on. And then there's a, feeling you belong, fully commit to the place, get the West Ham tattoos or whatever it is that you and your family feel very rooted here, even if you're not here for many generations. It's perfectly fine, I think, to have both of those models running in tandem rather than saying, if you're in group one, you never really counter. But that might make us want to, universities sort of tell students, where they are and what it's about and how to connect with it as volunteers and so on. So I think there's a chance to sort of lean in to that and work out how to get it right. If people get wrong some of the basics about, what the expectations of other people are, if it's about litter, tidiness and behaviour, that is going to be a real cause of friction. So I think just a bit more clarity about that, and then maybe modelling the norm and asking your residents to model the norm, because it can be sort of messages from the council about exactly what to do on what day of the week, but actually it can be a sense that you pick up that the social norm is something people believe in or are working more on. So that pride in place agenda, I think, is something that can link the long settled and the more transient, if you get that right.
Thank you very much. We've got 55 seconds. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
And we would be really pleased, my colleague Jake, of Bridge Future, Jake Puddle on the Secretariat, myself, we're very glad to hear people, if anything struck you about those themes, what you think we need to recommend, do be in touch, and we'll be back in touch with you all as well. Thanks very much for inviting us.
Thank you very much, Dan. I'm now moving to item 13, which is member questions, under Rule 12 of Part 4 of the Constitution. I can inform the Chamber that there are 3 questions received and accepted by the Chief Exec. The questions with the published responses can be seen in Supplementary Agenda 1, published earlier today. The questions are from Councillor James Beckles, Nate Higgins, and Danny Keeling. I call upon Councillor James Beckles to ask your question.
Thanks, Chair, for calling me. The regeneration in Custom House offers the opportunity to revitalise our neighbourhood with jobs, homes, and provide our residents with skills. Will the Community Wealth Building, Regeneration and Communities teams schedule more events in the Cundy Centre and the Shipman Youth Centre? These centres are at the heart of the community. They provide adequate space to host jobs fairs, resident consultations and opportunities to access training and skills. Inclusive growth starts with the people at its core. And these centres are vital to ensure we bring people together in a shared space. Our partners in the civil society, the public and private sector want to work with us and our residents. We have the venues they need, and we need to collaborate with them to help our residents feel more empowered, engaged and informed.
Thank you very much, Councillor Beckles. I call upon Mayor Fiaz to respond to the question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Beckles. I think your question certainly reflects on some of the points that Sundar has made in his presentation to us tonight. And you'll have noted the written response. And I'll just draw on some of those, because you are right, there is an appetite and a willingness and an interest in our communities over in Custom House, indeed in Canning Town and across all of our neighbourhoods, to be working in partnership with us. And we recognise, as I've set out here, that whilst there are a wide range of valuable activities taking place through what's been driven by council departments, alongside wider partners, including those that are part of Making Place over in Custom House. As you know, it's experiencing a significant amount of investment to make good use of the neighbourhood's community assets and local skills. But we clearly need to do more, and there's a recognition, and I was very thankful for the time that you provided following our previous discussions when we went on a walkabout a couple of weeks ago. And I'm really pleased that we can commence with something quite fruitful in support of the things that you're calling for. I'll leave it at that. The written response sets out some of the things that are happening, but you're right, there is an array of valuable, useful community assets, Shipman Youth Zone being one of our, I would say, magnificent investments that we've made in a part of the borough which for too long had been neglected, and the community is waiting for such a long time for regeneration to start. It's happening, it's slow, it can be at times silent, but we need to very much amplify and make noise, as it were, about the great things that are happening and the great things to come, and we need to be doing those collaboratively with our residents.
Thank you. Councillor Beckles, do you have a supplementary?
I do. I want to thank the Mayor and her team for providing the answer. And we did go on that walkabout, and I did find it very useful. And one of the things I did speak about, and as part of the supplementary question, is about signposting, but also working with the private sector within the area. There's a lot of development. We have Excel just a few meters away, sadly no longer in the ward, but if we can bring in those people who know how to create jobs into our area, that helps encourage inclusive growth, but it also encourages our residents to look beyond the border of Custom House, that look further down the DLR or the Elizabeth Line track towards Canary Wharf and other areas. And if we can bring these people within our spaces, then that would make a huge difference to the lives of people in Custom House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you want to respond, or is it noted?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for that supplementary question. I would absolutely agree with you, and again echo, there's a real appetite for residents to be more involved, and actually we do need to mobilise even more so the local businesses. I mean, as for Excel, they have made a much more enhanced commitment to ensuring that their employee base is derived from our local talent. Excel is part of the Royal Docks Enterprise Zone. The Royal Docks Enterprise Zone team, through its programming, has contributed an additional £80,000 for the current People Power Places project. You know, that's not going to be touched. That comes from a different stream of the Custom House and Canning Town People Power Places projects that I saw on Saturday when we were over at Canning Town Library. There's been such an increase in projects being submitted by communities and organisations in Custom House, and I think through accessing some of that money, that will help. And also, we have made commitments over recent years, again, through the Royal Docks Enterprise Zone, which is not just targeted at the communities in the immediate vicinity or area of the Royal Docks, but actually Custom House, along with Canning Town, is part of what's called an opportunity area planning framework under the auspices of both our local plan and the London plan, and it's going to be benefiting for huge more amounts of investment coming through, and we absolutely need to be driving the commitment ongoing in the coming years to that all-important inclusive growth, because it must be, first and foremost, not least, given the challenges of the cost of living crisis and the amplification of fairness, not only in Newham, but across our city, that it has to work for our people. So thank you very much, and I look forward to you driving that agenda in your locality.
Thank you. I call upon Councillor Nate Higgins to ask your question.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Nate Higgins, Stratford Olympic Park Ward and leader of the Green Group. Newham's housing system has become an engine of exploitation. Families are paying half their income to private landlords for insecure, overcrowded homes, while waiting lists for social housing stretch beyond a generation. Every rent rise forces another household into poverty, and yet landlords grow richer off people's basic need for shelter. The administration has previously voiced support for rent controls, but the Labour government refuses to let councils act. If this administration truly believes housing is a human right, not a commodity, can you demonstrate that conviction by listing what you and your cabinet have done in the past 12 months to lobby the government and build political support for rent controls in Newham, and to challenge a system where the few profit from the many simply trying to live?
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. I call upon Councillor Amar Virdi to respond to this question.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Amar Virdi, Green Street West, Deputy Mayor, Cabinet Member for Community Safety, Housing Needs, Homeless and PRS. Thank you, Councillor Higgins, for your question. I think it's probably really important that I respond back to this in terms of published response, but we'll want to add one more if you don't mind. Here in Newham, we have been lobbying consistently for many years for changes like this. The administration has supported the principle of rent controls for some time as part of the wider work to improve the private rental sector. As a Labour-led campaign council, we have been a leader in developing property licensing since 2013. Since 2013, we have led the way in developing property licensing designed to raise standards and improving housing conditions. We are proud to be the principal sponsor of the Centre for London report, Licenses to Let, May 2023, which made a powerful case for enhanced local powers within the Renters Reform Bill and for stronger regulation of the private rental sector. This important work, supported by the GLA, Greater London Authority, and our local partners across London and beyond, reflects Newham's leadership and commitment to standing up for the renters. Through our existing licensing powers, Newham has focused relentlessly on improving property conditions for residents. Since January 2023, we have successfully inspected over 24,000 properties, driving up standards and holding negligent landlords to account. In May 2025, I wrote to Baroness Taylor of Stevenage, the Lord's Minister for Housing and Local Government, expressing Newham's strong support for proposed amendments to the Renters' Rights Bill. These amendments sought to strengthen local authorities' ability to operate licensing schemes and the extension of their duration, critical steps to enable long-term, large-scale improvements in the housing standards. I totally endorse and support the concerns that Councillor Higgins has raised in the private rental sector here in Newham. Increasing the rights of renters should be the top priority for both us locally and with the national government, and therefore proud of the introduction of the Renters' Right Act 2025 under the Labour government, a landmark piece of legislation that secures a fairer future for over 11 million private renters in England and provides vital safeguards for Newham residents. It highlights the key proposals of the Renters' Right Act, which obviously looks at the abolition of no-fault Section 21 evictions and ensuring landlords must provide a valid reason to evict tenants, and protection amongst discrimination for tenants with children and those of receipts of benefits. One of the key things that you've highlighted was the rent increases, and this proposes a limit of rent increases to once per year within a 2-month notice period, and the ability to challenge unfair rent increases through tribunal, which obviously will hopefully safeguard our tenants of Newham. Obviously, the implementation is going to be hopefully in full effect by April 2026, marking a new chapter in fairness, sustainability and dignity for renters and writers across Newham and the country. I just wanted to also add, Councillor Higgins, I'm sure you might have a supplementary. Obviously, over the last year and those beyond, obviously been working quite closely with other local authorities and London Council and advocating for the support that we need for our tenants, especially in Newham, as you know, of the homelessness crisis that we've got. One of the other key things I wanted to also mention is one of the key things around compliance within the private rental sector, and one of the key things around transparency for our tenants to see around how much enforcement's being done. And one of the other key things I want to highlight is what the continuous part of work we need to do with our tenants within Newham to ensure that they're aware of their rights. So that's probably one of the other few things I want to add.
Thank you, Councillor Verdi. Councillor Higgins, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Chair. I do. And thanks for reading out the answer. My question was about what has the council done as a campaigning council to push the government to introduce rent controls. And the Cabinet member will know that I care quite a lot about landlord licensing, but that's not what the question was about. It was about rent controls. Unfortunately, in the answer, there's nothing to show that the council has done anything in the past year to fight for rent controls. But since we're talking about landlord licensing, it was a Green motion brought last year that called for my ward, Stratford Olympic Park and Royal Victoria, to be added to the council's landlord licensing scheme. And we've been in discussion since about this. Can residents depend on Labour locally in the council, at City Hall and in government to introduce the rent controls, the landlord licensing across the entire borough that councillors have voted unanimously for, or will residents be let down on this?
Councillor Verdi, do you wish to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. As I mentioned, with the response that I sent back in terms of amendments, those focused on rent controls, which was written, as you know, the Renters' Right Act is an amendment, and it's obviously still going through iterations, as you know, and will go through in terms of 2026. One of the key measures of the outcome of, obviously, the Renters' Right reform is around that rent control that they're focusing on just as much. Councillor, you know, and for full disclosure, you asked me this question previously, and other members have raised this question around the expansion as part of the devolution of the white paper. We already asked that question. Can we expand to the likes of Stratford Olympic Park and the likes of Victoria? And there were set criteria that had to be met. The due diligence has been done by the council, and I've asked that question. And obviously the mitigations of looking at the likes of why it could have been done were exposed based on criteria around meeting the threshold of standard and antisocial behaviour, which you are well versed for, and you've got a response back for it. So I just want to be very crystal clear that obviously just for our residents to understand that obviously those questions have been asked of the council by members and have been shared with the likes of yourself. So I think it's really important the fact that those questions that have been asked about what we can do in light of the devolution, those have been asked to ensure the fact that if we could expand the licensing scheme to likes of the Royal Victoria, Royal Albert and the Stratford Olympic Park could be done. But we have to still respect the framework of what legislation states. So I just want to remind, not just yourself, but just to inform the tenants out there, those questions have been asked to ensure that they are safeguarded. So just want to make that clear for transparency that you are ultimately aware and residents are ultimately aware those questions will be pertinently asked. So I hope that addresses your question.
Thank you very much, Councillor Verdi. I call upon Councillor Janet Keeling to ask your question.
People are still struggling to find a secure, genuinely affordable home in Newham. We've seen a government best value notice warning about governance and delivery, and estate projects where residents feel pushed out, not lifted up. So I have a simple question. If this administration truly believes in inclusive growth, can you tell us how many genuinely affordable homes at social rent have actually been delivered in the last 4 years?
Thank you. I call upon Mayor Fiaz to respond to this question.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Councillor Keeling, for your important question. Look, Councillor Keeling, you should know the commitment to inclusive growth has been a hallmark of my administration since 2018. Indeed, I stood on a platform of demonstrating the importance of homes at social rents, and I made a commitment in my first term of 1,000 homes at social rent to be started, and thereafter, in term 2, a commitment of 1,500 homes to be started or acquired through the council's acquisitions programme. We were the first council back in 2019 through a grant provided by the Mayor of London in housing delivery in this capital of receiving the highest allocation for any local authority in this capital, £119 million. That's £190 million. That has gone a huge way in driving forward that commitment in term 1. And we are continuing across the range of developments and schemes, either under the auspices of our Affordable Homes for Newham programme, and indeed our 3 substantive and major regeneration and restoration schemes, including Carpenters. Our commitment cannot be challenged in the context of a principle, an intent, and actually a record of delivery. The response that I've provided in writing sets out in clear terms that we have been, since 2021, 1,662 low-cost homes have been delivered, of which a significant number are social rent homes and the remaining at affordable rent levels. But there is a table that sets out as part of the response in the period 2021-2022, of the 354 homes that were delivered, that's low-cost homes under the auspices of our Affordable Homes for Newham programme, of the 354, 81 were London affordable rent, 97 were affordable rent, and 176, that's 176 was social rent. Thereafter, in 2022 and 23, there were 2 London affordable rent homes that were completed, and thereafter, of the social rent homes, 31, that's 33, completed, because it takes time to build homes. They cannot be magicked. And we are hurrying. Please, believe me, we are hurrying.
About 8 years.
Chair? Can we just get the Mayor to finish?
She's gone way off.
No, she's making her response. Let's let you, if you have a supplementary, you'll ask after this.
There was a written response.
Can we, sorry, I'm sorry, Councillor Keeling. You'll have the chance to ask a supplementary question. Carry on. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Then going on to 2023-24, again, in the published response, and there are members of the public in the gallery and members of the public listening online, it is important that there's transparency over a response potentially being misrepresented. In 2023-24, a total of 741 homes, of which 430 London affordable rent, of which 129 affordable rent, of which 182 social rent. And then in this past year, 2024-25, a total of 534 homes, of which 427 London affordable rent, 95 affordable rent, and 12 social rent. Now, no doubt, part of a supplementary question, I assume, but I don't have a crystal ball, may well beg the question, but I asked about social rent. I know, and that's the reason why we've been transparent and very clear about what we've delivered. We are maintaining our commitment to social rent homes, and we're also being very, very mindful of the expense, the challenges in terms of development costs, inflationary pressures that places a burden on the council, and also recognising, and this is something that we should be proud of every local authority delivering homes, not just in London, but in England. We are in the top 3. That is something to be commended. That's something that we should all be proud of, and that's something that we should shout from the rooftops about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Fiaz. Councillor Keeling, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. We obviously had a very low barrier to hit the top 3. It seems that, can I ask then, with the very low amount that you have supplied, Where are we going to find, if a Labour administration were to come in next time, where will you find the other, I think it's about 40,000 homes for the people in temporary accommodation and the people waiting on the council list?
Mayor Fiaz, do you wish to respond?
Thank you very much. I think it's very, very important that I, in the interests of accuracy and transparency, just point out the fact that Newham's in the top 3 of councils delivering homes in London and in England is something we really ought to be proud of. When you think about the number of homes that have actually been built in London because of inflationary pressures, because of cost construction that's gone high, and issues of viability, the developers have been angst about. Housing delivery in London has slowed down, and it's going to be rebooted, and you'll have heard the government announce earlier this year some £39 billion to reboot housing delivery in this country, including in London. No doubt there's going to be some conversations during the debates, but I would kindly ask Councillor Keeling to perhaps spend some time understanding better and deeply the challenges of housing delivery in London, the challenges as it relates to costs, and the time it takes to build well-designed, affordable homes that our people deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move to item 14, which is the themed report, Growth with a Purpose, Homes, Jobs and Inclusive Communities. This report is outlined from page 53 on the agenda. Under Council Procedure Rule 2.6, the order of the debate for the themed session will include A, the Mayor or the relevant Cabinet member has 7 minutes in which to present a motion on the theme, plan, strategy or policy. B, expert or external advice, if any. I don't think there is any in today. C, debate will then open to any member who indicates to speak or present an amendment. And D, at the conclusion of the debate, the meeting will take a vote on the motion and any amendments. So I call upon the Mayor to present the report and its recommendations. You will have up to 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Colleagues, I'm speaking as the portfolio lead for inclusive economy, strategic housing delivery and culture. And I'm really delighted to be introducing this themed report, Growth with a Purpose, Homes, Jobs and Inclusive Communities. My purpose, this administration's purpose, is building a fairer Newham with people at its heart. That's what we've been doing since 2018. That's what we've been redoubling our efforts in light of some 3 years experiencing the impact of COVID-19 to drive that fairness agenda forward. I've always been clear that growth must drive a material impact for our residents. It's an anti-poverty agenda. It's about advancing equality, supporting our people to access opportunities and be better able to live financially secure lives. Our approach is about tackling inequality, as I said, and poverty, so that all of our residents have a share in the borough's growth and its success. The recently published indices of deprivation last month show the continuing challenge East London boroughs like Newham face. We face challenges around low pay, child poverty, and we face the brunt of London's housing crisis. Our recently published Newham Growth Plan sets out our long-term vision for shaping sustainable growth across the borough, and it also recognises the importance of being alert to the planet's limits, not least in this week where we are bearing witness to the international debates at COP30. We have an obligation to make Newham a place of investment where we're enabling companies, startups, entrepreneurs, innovators to create good, high-income jobs. We have an obligation to help support and facilitate and drive the delivery of genuinely affordable homes. And we have obligation to ensure that our people remain connected. They feel heard. They feel as if they have a stake in our neighbourhoods to create inclusive communities. We have one of the most ambitious house building and regeneration programmes with a target of 43,000 new homes by 2033. On council-owned land, at least 50% of new homes will be genuinely affordable. Through the Connect to Work programme that we are driving through the Our Newham service, we are supporting 1,548 residents with disabilities or health conditions into good work. Culture-led growth is creating vibrant regeneration and creating pathways into creative industries, a sector of the London's economy and this country's economy which is the fastest growing, and new skills and employment opportunities. And our digital and data work under the auspices of Newham's Data Economy programme is become a leader in data transformation and data-driven growth. Research has identified the borough as a hub of the UK's data economy, projecting over 5,500 new jobs and creating £104 million additional gross value added to our economy by 2030. So we're coupling economic growth with social justice. More than that, we're ensuring that issues of disproportionality as it affects women, those that may be disabled, those that are of different ethnicities aren't being held back. That's about fairness, that's about sustainability, and that's about ensuring that belonging and an investment in our people is baked in. Some final comments. Throughout the report, you'll be able to note all the things that we've been doing as part of our driving our agenda of inclusive growth. Our Newham services, if you look at page 7 to 8, integrated employment, skills and financial wellbeing support, 16,000 residents supported, 5.3 million household income unlocked. Our priorities, youth, carers, disabled residents, lifelong learning. We've done a lot. We need to be proud, and I'm really am happy and pleased to commend this report to full council tonight.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Whitworth. You will have up to 3 minutes when you reach the lectern.
The theme of this report is growth with a purpose. And purpose is key because growth alone creates greater inequality. We as a council have the vocation of ensuring that inward investment in Newham creates prosperity within the borough and is not mostly taken out by the investors. We have in the borough a proud record of improved academic achievement in our schools, which has led to a high level of progression to universities. However, the academic achievement of many young people is not, unfortunately, always rewarded by the employment at the level of their degree. At the other end of the scale, we have a large number of young people who are NEETs, not in employment, education or training. Both groups need opportunities to find employment which matches their abilities and ambitions and enables them to access a decent standard of living. We need partners to help our residents find employment in the expanding construction, data, green and culture industries in particular, and the education and training which enable them to access these jobs. With less direct funding coming to the council, we need to enable residents to do more for themselves, both individually and in neighbourhood and voluntary community and faith groups. This also should include providing conditions for enhancing democratic participation so that people can take greater control of their everyday lives and gain satisfaction and self-fulfilment from this. Enabling residents to enjoy the fruits of greater prosperity in the borough will improve their living conditions, health and sense of well-being, and this should be our goal.
Thank you, Councillor Whitworth. We now move to the debate. This report is for noting. Does any member wish to speak? Councillor Tripp.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Rachel Tripp from Forest Gate North Ward. Longer ago than I now really care to remember, when I was first elected, I was out door knocking and was asked by a resident of Forest Gate North what the council was doing for local small business owners. At the time, we had a really strong story to tell about children, about housing, about supporting families. I didn't really have anything to say to him about what we were doing for local small businesses, and that conversation has really stayed with me the way that these things do, as my colleagues will know when you knock on the door and have a difficult conversation with someone. It makes me really pleased now, and I know when I knock on that door again, although I sadly haven't seen the same gentleman again, that we have a really strong story to tell around small businesses, around the local economy, and around growth, and that's why I'm really pleased to support this report. I'm particularly pleased to support the way that we define growth, which is not about random numbers on spreadsheets. It's not about theoretical economic growth for certain people or certain bank accounts. It's about growth that local people are a really fundamental part of, about growth that shows up in meaningful ways, about tackling deprivation, not just about any employment, but about good quality jobs, about improving access to culture, about providing good quality homes and tackling the climate emergency. Like I said, growth that local people are a part of, both as actors and beneficiaries. In Forest Gate North and in the surrounding wards, many of the organisations that we really value locally have benefited hugely from this approach through people-powered places. Things like the Forest Gate Community Garden, the Up Garden, Our Lovely Market, the Forest Gate Festival, Ashok's Vision, Maryland's Grow for All, Break the Silence, many other organisations and individuals have all had really good ideas about how to improve the area. Thanks to their energy and their work, helped by the money they won through votes from their friends and neighbours, they've delivered events, workshops, training, planting and other improvements that everyone in Forest Gate and indeed visitors to the ward and around can enjoy. And I'm really grateful to councillor colleagues, to officers and indeed to residents and to our local voluntary community and faith sector who've made all of that happen. I commend this report to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Tripp. Does any other member wish to speak? No? Thank you for that, everyone. The recommendations are outlined on page 56 of the agenda, and they are for noting. Yeah, sorry. No, okay, all right. Okay, okay. We don't need to go for this. Okay. Yeah. So is that noted? Yes, I'm doing that by assent. Thank you very much. I move to item 15, which is the East London Joint Waste Plan Regulation 19 Submission Plan. This report is outlined from page 71 of the agenda. I call on Councillor Whitworth to move this report, and you will have up to 5 minutes for that.
Thank you, Chair. It's been, well, since the adoption of the last Joint Waste Development Plan for the East London Waste Authority boroughs in 2012, going back a century, that dates me, 2012, there have been significant changes to the policy context the plan operates within, namely the introduction of the National Planning Policy Framework and National Planning Policy for Waste, as well as the updates to the London Plan and Newham's Local Plan. The progress of the Joint Waste Plan supports the refresh of the borough's local plan, which was presented to full council in April 2025. The East London Joint Waste Plan Regulation 19 Submission Plan builds upon the local plan requirements to deliver a circular economy and more sustainable waste management practices. It also supports the implementation of Newham's Just Transition Plan in a number of ways. Supporting developments that promote a circular economy and requiring major projects to submit statements on how they will achieve this through construction, operation, and deconstruction. reducing waste, seeking to minimise preventable waste throughout a development's lifespan, supporting the Newham Regeneration Team's goal to create a circular economy construction hub in the borough, ensuring developers plan for effective storage of recyclable materials and, in the largest residential developments, require storage for items to be reused. The plan contains requirements for waste development proposals to provide job opportunities for local residents during both construction and operation. The plan requires waste management sites to be located close to waste sources to reduce transportation impacts and encourages non-road transportation of waste. The design of waste management and wastewater treatment facilities will be required to minimise the emission of greenhouse gases by working towards net zero, or, where this isn't practical, providing an appropriate contribution to the borough's carbon offset fund, as well as ensuring efficient use of energy and water and including climate adaptation measures. The East London Joint Waste Plan Regulating 19 Submission Plan seeks to safeguard sites across East London to sustainably process all types of waste. There has been surplus capacity identified, and as part of the plan, Newham is seeking the release of one waste site, which is located on the Connaught Riverside site allocation in our emerging local plan. This will help ensure the key regeneration benefits of this site can be optimised. No new waste management sites have been allocated in the plan in Newham or the wider plan area. Following the completion of the Regulation 19 consultation and the assessment of the consultation responses, authorisation is now sought from full council for officers to proceed under Regulation 22 to submit the East London Joint Waste Plan Regulation 19 Submission Plan and Policies Map, which is Appendix 1, approved by Cabinet in May 2025, as amended by the proposed modifications provided in Appendix 2 and associated documents as set out in Appendix 6 to the Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government for independent public examination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whitworth. Do I have a seconder, please?
Just formally seconded, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Fiaz. We now move to the debate. Does any member wish to speak? No. Councillor Whitworth, you have a right to reply, but there's been no debate. So we will move to the recommendations, which are outlined on page 73 of the agenda. We will move to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, please raise your hands. Any abstentions? I think that's unanimous. That is carried. Thank you very much. Moving to item 16, member statements in accordance with Part 4 Rules of the Procedure of the Council's Constitution, paragraph 13. However, there have been no requests for statements from members, so I will move to the next item. Item 17 is motions. We have up to 60 minutes for this item. There are two motions listed for consideration at this meeting, namely Motion 1, which is the Green Group motion, and Motion 2, which is the Labour Group motion. Motion 1, I call upon Councillor Ariq Chaudhry to propose their motion, which is outlined on page 984 of the published agenda. I have been told that Councillor Higgins is going to be proposing this. So, yeah. Councillor Higgins, you have up to 5 minutes.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Nate Higgins, Stratford Olympic Park Ward, leader of the Green Group. 2 weeks ago, the Labour government and the Labour Mayor of London announced what they called the Support for House Building in London package. They said it was about getting homes built faster. What it actually does is slash the rules designed to protect Londoners from exploitation. It halves the community infrastructure levy, the fund that pays for schools, roads, parks, GP surgeries, and it lowers the threshold for affordable housing in new developments from 35% to just 20%. Let's be clear about what that means for Newham. Less money for public services, fewer council homes, and less power for the locally elected councillors who residents rightly expect to deliver those homes. This package isn't a plan to build homes. It's a developer giveaway cooked up between a Labour government and a Labour mayor, cheered on by the property lobby. Labour want you to believe that if you want new homes to be built, you have no choice but to accept that these homes will be homes that you will have no hope of being able to afford, that do nothing to boost the supply of council housing, and without any funding for the social infrastructure that enables new homes, that ensures new homes don't come at the cost of conditions for existing residents. Greens want you to know Labour are in the pocket of private developers and landlords, and they are lying to you. Here in Newham, we know exactly what that looks like. Look at the Beckton Riverside development approved by Labour councillors. Nearly 3,000 homes and only 185 at social rent. Just 6%. We know we are going to see more of this. This is the consequence of the policy they've just announced. Developers know that if they claim viability issues, they'll get away with it, because the Mayor of London and the government have told them they can. I warned in this chamber months ago that our 50% social housing commitment was at risk of being undermined by Labour's Mayor of London and by so-called viability claims. And we've sadly learned now how right that was. Greens know that viability assessments are rigged. They assume no grant funding, no subsidy, no serious public investment. Then Labour tell us social housing is undeliverable. Social housing hasn't failed viability tests. Viability tests have failed social housing. And now City Hall has given itself the right to overrule our planning decisions on developments over 50 homes, undermining our ability to insist on real affordability. Whatever Labour says locally, the Labour Mayor of London is not on Newham's side. Whatever we promise on social housing, residents will see their councils blocked from delivering. And when Labour cuts the community infrastructure levy, it's not just an accounting exercise. It breaks the model of trust that makes new development work. Residents already see cranes go up while their kids can't get a GP appointment, a dentist or a school place. When those community benefits vanish, public trust collapses, and that makes it harder to build anything at all. And let's not forget what passes for affordable in this system. 80% of market rent is not affordable in Newham. Shared ownership that costs more than renting isn't affordable, and it subjects residents to yet more exploitation. We need council housing, real homes at social rent, secure and genuinely affordable. Yet this Labour government has chosen to side with developers instead of tenants, profits instead of people. The Green Party believes secure, affordable housing is a human right, not a privilege, not a speculative asset. The private rental sector has failed that test. It's become a vehicle for wealth extraction, funneling money from renters to landlords, from working people to property owners. That's why our motion calls for a different vision. Publicly led development that delivers 50% council housing, green jobs through retrofitting, and secure, affordable homes for Newham residents. Rents controlled so residents are not forced to spend over half their income on insecure housing. A land value tax so that rising land values benefits the public, not the speculator. And powers for councils to end right to buy, to end the mass privatisation of housing, and to buy back former council homes. We don't accept that the only way to build is to beg developers for scraps. We don't accept that affordable has to mean unaffordable, and we don't accept that growth should come at the expense of our communities. Growth without redistribution isn't progress, it's inequality with better branding. Tonight, councillors have a choice: to nod along with a Labour government that has already broken its promises to renters and working families, or to stand up for housing justice. Let's vote for homes and for people, not for profit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Keeling, you have up to 3 minutes to speak.
The so-called support for house building in London package does not support communities. It supports developers. It takes money out of Newham's infrastructure, weakens our housing standards, and hands even more power to those who already profit from the housing crisis. Halving the community infrastructure levy means halving the funds that pay for things that make housing work. The schools, the transport links, and the green spaces. Cutting affordable housing targets to as little as 20% means developers can cash in while our waiting lists grow longer. And we've all been watching that. It's the same failed logic we've seen for decades. Labour administration after Labour administration after Labour administration since it began. The waiting list gets longer. Loosen the rules, trust the market, hope the benefits trickle down, but they never do. Here in Newham, we see the reality every single day. Thousands of families trapped in temporary accommodation, tenants spending half their income just to keep a roof over their heads, whole communities priced out of their own borough, while developers tell us they can't afford to build affordable homes, and landlords get rich off lack of housing choices. It's time to say enough. We cannot fix a housing crisis created by speculation with more speculation. We can't keep pretending the private market will solve the problem it profits from. Imagine instead a Newham where council homes are the norm, not the exception, where no child grows up in temporary housing. Some B&B we've bought in East Ham, some other HMO we've bought in Stratford, and where rents are fair because homes are built for need, not for greed. That's the future this motion puts forwards, a future where housing is publicly led, publicly owned, and rooted in community need, where the rising value of land funds, the schools, parks, and transport our residents rely on, not dividends for shareholders. This motion is about reclaiming housing as a public mission, not private market. It's about saying we will not trade away our standards or our autonomy just to make life easier for developers. Because homes are not investments, they're foundations of people's lives. Development is important, but it requires those who live there to be put first.
Thank you, Councillor Keeling. We have received an amendment to the motion, which has been published. I call upon Councillor Dr. John Whitworth, who has proposed the amendment. Councillor Whitworth, you have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm introducing an amendment to the motion which adds context to its resolutions and proposes their revision in order to encourage the conditions which promote house building and the increase in the amount of genuinely affordable homes. Well, following the Conservative government's failure to provide the conditions necessary for recovering in house building, the rise in interest rates for borrowing and mounting construction costs, the building of homes in London has stalled. An illustration of this is that so far this year, house building starts are down by 38%. However, we can say, and this was mentioned earlier, but I'll repeat, that during the difficult conditions of the COVID pandemic and its aftermath, Newham delivered the third highest number of social homes in London. This is a real achievement, but we know we need to build more homes and more genuinely affordable ones to address the needs of the huge number of families in temporary accommodation and on the council housing waiting list. So in recognition of the crisis, the Labour government introduced a package of measures in the summer spending review. Of particular interest to us in Newham is that 60% of homes are to be at social rent, and there will be funding to support early homelessness prevention. To unlock house building in the capital, Support for House Building in London has launched the City Hall Developer Investment Fund to leverage private and council investment into housing. One of the mechanisms is the temporary halving of the community infrastructure levy that the motion alluded to for developments offering 20% or more affordable housing. One amended resolution, therefore, is to review our CIL spending in the borough and commit it to vital infrastructure projects such as improving transport links and green spaces. The Council's priority is not only to achieve more house building in Newham, but to build more homes that our residents can afford. So we support the resolution to reaffirm once again our commitment to at least 50% of homes in major developments to be built for social rent. And this features, as you know, in the new local plan, which is currently being examined by the planning inspector. Another new government measure is the Renters Reform Act, which, in helping to strengthen the position of renters in the private sector, will help stem the flow of dispossessed families into temporary accommodation. And a resolution introduced by the amendment is for the Council to help make renters aware of their new rights under this Act.
I must stop you now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Do I have a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Young?
Thank you, Chair. And colleagues, I'm pleased to second this amended motion, which speaks to the urgency, ambition and responsibility that we must uphold as a council in the face of one of the most severe housing crises in the country. And I'd really encourage colleagues to face up to real-world realities here. It's easy to shout from the sidelines with some fantasy ideals that simply won't deliver. October's support for house building in London package, alongside the Labour government's historic £39 billion investment in affordable housing, offers a real opportunity to turbocharge delivery. Temporarily halving borough-level CIL rates for schemes with over 20% affordable housing is the pragmatic step that will help unlock stalled developments and bring forward the homes our residents desperately need. Let's be clear. House building in London has faced a perfect storm. The legacy of the previous government, the impact of the pandemic, high interest rates, spiralling construction costs and regulatory barriers have all contributed to a collapse in starts. More than a third of boroughs recorded zero house building starts in the first quarter of this year, and that is a crisis. And in Newham, the stakes are even higher. Thousands of families are in temporary accommodation. Rents are among the highest relative to income in the UK. And yet, despite these pressures, an average of over 1,000 affordable and social homes have been delivered in Newham per year between 2020 and 2023. As the Mayor outlined earlier, over 1,600 of these have been delivered by this council. That's a record to be proud of, but we know it's not enough. This motion rightly reaffirms our ambition to achieve 50% social rent in major developments, but this has to be balanced against the pragmatic steps needed to unlock the current housing delivery crisis. We should review how borough-level CIL is allocated, ensuring millions in developer contributions go to the schools, parks, transport links and community infrastructure our residents deserve. This motion also supports the Renters Reform Act, introduced by this Labour government, which finally rebalances power in the private rented sector, ending no-fault evictions, capping rent increases, and banning discrimination against tenants on benefits or those with children. These are long overdue protections. And crucially, it calls for the government to go further. A national buyback fund to reclaim lost council homes, a review of the tax system to better capture rising land values for public benefit, and lower borrowing rates so councils can build zero carbon housing at scale. This is what true growth with purpose looks like. Development that secures affordable homes,
Thank you, Councillor Young.
places,
I
jobs,
must ask you to
and
stop
opportunities
now.
and builds
Thank you very
inclusive
much,
neighbourhoods.
Councillor
Thank
Young.
you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Young. Okay, Councillor Higgins, if you could turn on your microphone at this stage. Do you accept the Labour Group amendment?
Unfortunately, we can't this
Okay,
time, Chair.
all right, thank you very much. In that case, we will now move to the debate on the amendment. Members will have up to 3 minutes to debate. I will take Councillor Higgins, and then I will take Councillor Morris. Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad in this amendment, Newham Labour has backed policies that Greens have long championed. A land value tax to replace the unfair and unsustainable council tax. This would move the burden of land taxation, of property taxation from tenants to owners, and ensures that that taxation is genuinely progressive. Those with the broadest shoulders would pay their fair share. This is a form of wealth tax, and it is vital to fighting wealth inequality, to end the hoarding of wealth and housing. Unfortunately, this amendment strips out most of what we've asked the council to do to build political support for it. Newham Labour have also recommitted to the 50% social housing commitment that we protected with our Green motion last year. But that means nothing when the Mayor of London's package that we're asking council to oppose gives himself the right to overrule our local decisions. And this motion supports that package. And Labour's amendment continues that opposition to proper wealth taxes. The wealth taxes are backed by Greens as well as 75% of the public, but Labour refuses to support them. They also refuse to reject speculative buy-to-let mortgages, which allow private landlords to hoard housing and contributes to our rising house prices, making it harder for residents to access housing. The Labour Council have no backbone in the face of the Labour government's assault on community infrastructure levy. And in fact, from what we hear tonight, they want you to believe it's good for you. They want you to thank them for less money for our schools, parks and roads while your council taxes soar. Their amendment calls for a review on how community infrastructure levy is spent, and that's right. It's what I've been calling for years after Rob Callender called for it at the mayoral election, after he exposed tens of millions of pounds in unspent levy. Most disappointingly, this amendment rips out any support from the motion for rent controls. Despite Labour committing to this in their 2022 mayoral manifesto, the motion removes our call for the government to introduce rent controls, despite us hearing from the administration tonight that they apparently still support rent controls. I don't get what's going on there. Why will you say that you support rent controls but that you won't do anything to make the case for them? Members will know previously, I tried to accept the amendments. I believe that there's no monopoly on wisdom. I want us to work together to bring forward proposals that work for everyone. I don't like rejecting your amendment to this motion, but I don't see what it is in the things that you're stripping out that you dislike so much. And therefore, I have to oppose this. I think residents will see this amendment for what it is, which is party political support for the Labour Mayor of London and Labour government's plan, not putting Newham residents first. So I urge councillors to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Higgins. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chair. This government expects... apologies. This government expects London to build 88,000 homes to be delivered each and every single year. And yet, in 22-23, only 25,000 affordable homes were built. And last year, the number fell dramatically to just 3,000. The simple truth is, for a range of reasons, it is next to impossible, extraordinarily hard to build a high number of affordable housing. And while I understand the controversy in proposing to lower the affordable housing target, respectfully, Council, respectfully, Chair, 35% of nothing is still nothing. The Labour government's recent spending review announced a major package of measures to accelerate the delivery of 1.5 million affordable homes. This includes £35 billion of investment to build affordable homes, the largest cash of injection in over 50 years, £2.5 billion in low-cost loans for social housing providers to boost building, £10 billion to leverage private sector investment in house building, £950 million in local authority housing fund to increase the supply of a temporary accommodation, £100 million to support early homelessness prevention. Meanwhile, under the Mayor of London, a Labour mayor, we have seen an average of 36,000 new homes built every year, the highest annual rate in the history of the office. the target of 116,000 genuinely affordable homes between 2016 and 2023 has been met. And to support this, councils have been building 10,000 council houses per year, rising to over 20,000 homes in 2023. Per in Newham, the Mayor of London has supported Newham's Affordable Homes programme, which has delivered hundreds of new homes, including in my ward, Plaza West and Kennington Street, in Ann Street, Moores Close, Sutton Road, New Barn Street. This Labour government, this Labour Mayor and this Labour Council has done more for London to build affordable homes than the Green Party have ever done. The Council, let's be clear, the Greens' motion is little more than a political stunt. Someone that has a luxury of being in opposition with no real responsibility of being empowered to deliver. However, this amendment reflects the real record of delivery under the Mayor of London and puts forward practical, credible solution to Britain's housing crisis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Morris. Are there anyone else who wants to speak on this debate? Councillor Rush and then Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully I can see it. I've left me spectacles at home today, but I've made it bigger. But anyway, I'll go on. I was pleased to see that the amendment mentions the Renters' Right Act, which received royal assent on the 27th of October this year. So basically 2 weeks ago, as this is a crucial tool to help tackle the housing crisis. The new Act will rebalance the private rented sector in favour of tenants, including more secure tenancies. Landlords are no longer able to use no-fault evictions to enter tenancy, creating greater security for tenants. And then to fixed-term tenancies with minimum 12-month terms, and landlords required to give 4 months' notice. Limits on rent increases, which can only take place once a year. Better rights for tenants with pets with no unreasonable refusal. A new landlord ombudsman and private sector rental database. A ban on bidding wars with landlords only able to accept the rent advertised and a maximum of a 1 month deposit. Illegal to blanket ban tenants of benefits or with children. This over the long term will help negate many of our housing issues. And changes in legislation in the right to buy. We welcome these changes the Labour government has brought in on the right to buy, which will mean more council homes are retained as social housing. Some changes here caps the discount rate at a maximum of 15% or £16,000 in London, an increase in the minimum tenancy term from 3 to 10 years, exempt new build housing from the scheme for 35 years, means councils will keep 100% of the sale receipts to fund new social homes. This council, as we've already heard, stands by its policy of ending right to buy, which cuts off the loss of social housing outright. Since 1980, when the Right to Buy Act was passed, we have lost over 2.4 million homes sold off to tenants through the scheme. It's quite clear here why we here in Newham and across the country, waiting lists for social homes are growing. It's why our amendment is so important, as we are recognising the good work our Labour government is doing in this sector by changes to the Right to Buy legislation and the Renters Reform Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Councillor Gray.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor John Gray, West Ham Ward. I'll just be short and sweet. I mean, politics is a bit of a rough game at times, but the hypocrisy of the Greens over this issue is absolutely breathtaking. I've just checked. When the Greens ran Brighton Council, a much richer council than Newham, in 7 years they built 497 homes. 497 homes. This council, in the last 7 years, built, according to the figures that we've read being published today, 1,662 homes. over 3 times the amount of homes that a rich borough like Brighton built when the Greens ran it to the ground and were kicked out for their failure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gray. Is there anyone else who wants to speak? If not, I call upon Councillor Whitworth, who had proposed the amendment and has the right to reply. Would you like to take your right to reply, Councillor Whitworth? There is a right to reply to the amendment. Councillor Whitworth, do you...
Thank you, Chair. Well, certainly what I would like to say is that what the Greens propose is hardly practical for what we have in Newham. And this, I think, was borne out by the speakers who proposed the motion and who would support the motion as amended. We need to be steadfast in our principles, but we also need to work with the situation as it exists. And I think, actually, the Greens are in a world which is perhaps a nice world which doesn't exist, and they have got no practical application in it, unfortunately. So we are here to improve the situation as we are able to do it in a practical way, understanding the conditions that prevail, and we are trying to achieve this by standing by our principles of social housing and of retaining the housing stock as much as we can. And what I think we will achieve is what is practically possible without losing our idealism. I'm afraid the Greens have got no practical sense in this respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whitworth. So we will now move to the vote on the amendment to the motion. All those in favour of the amendment to the motion, please raise your hand. Okay. All those against, please raise your hands. Any abstentions? Okay. In that case, the amendment is carried. So the amendment to the motion has now been agreed and now becomes a substantive motion. So we can now move to the debate on the substantive motion, which is the amended motion. Does any member wish to speak on that? No. Okay. So in that case, Councillor Higgins, you have the right of reply. Do you wish to say anything? Yes.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Morris said that the Greens have the luxury of opposition. I can't tell the future, but what I do know is that if Labour keeps behaving the way they have tonight, then I can guarantee you one thing: he'll be enjoying that in the not-too-distant future. What we've heard tonight is Labour councillor after Labour councillor giving their political colleagues in City Hall, Whitehall and Westminster a pat on the back while giving residents a stab in the back and doing nothing to fight back against the cuts to community infrastructure levy and affordable housing. They've refused to engage with any of what this motion is actually about, which was to fight back against the property laws. At the local elections, residents were promised a Labour council that would fight for rent controls. Instead, for reasons they have not explained, they amend our motion to remove support for it. We've also heard Labour go on about Greens in other councils, and all I'll say there is if they spent longer wondering about what was going on at this council instead of what's going on at other councils, maybe things would be going a little bit better for residents right now. Despite the amendment, which I think does remove quite a lot of the point of this motion, there is still some really positive things in here around land value tax, around a right to buy back fund for housing, around ending support for right to buy and things like that. These are important policies, and I'm glad that we've been able to build political consensus in Newham around that. And I hope that their Labour colleagues will be talking to their party members in Westminster and around the country to build political support for those things across the country, because they clearly need to happen in order to fight and solve Newham's housing crisis. So I encourage members to vote for this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Higgins. So we will now move to the vote. So now we are voting on the motion as with the amendment. So all those in favour, please raise your hands. Okay. All those against? And any abstentions? Okay, in that case, it has been carried. Thank you very much. Motion 2, I call upon Councillor Melanie Onovo to propose their motion, which is outlined on page 986 of the published agenda. Councillor Onovo, once you reach the lectern, you will have up to 5 minutes.
Today's Pride in Place motion goes to the heart of our community's ambitions, beginning to turn the tide on the underinvestment that our local area has seen over the last decade and a half, and resetting the relationship with residents in Newham, ensuring that their needs are at the centre of decision-making. Newham is receiving £1.5 million from the Labour government in funding to be spent over the next few weeks. And with resident engagement, I believe councillors should be involved in this consultation process, working in the centres that they represent and advocating their views on how this funding should be spent. I think we should take advantage of this 1.5 million in funding, not because it will fix every issue that we have, but because it is an opportunity to look for outer investment, to be able to build roads in our community, to clean up our high streets, to build on our public spaces, and to invest in every neighbourhood so that no community feels that they are left behind. When your streets are full of fly tips and grime, it's difficult for those who live there, but it's also difficult for outside investment, many of whom might want to find and establish roots in Newham, but don't see a means for investing. This is one way that this money could be used, but residents, as I've been told to local MPs in the area, have pointed to different things like revitalising our parks, revitalising, cleaning up fly tips, but also making sure that we have the basics like clean streets. These are the few ways that this funding could make a difference to how people view and see their local community. Everyone deserves the right to have pride in their local area. Everybody believes in their local area. And actually, similarly to a report that we heard earlier, for people to build roots in Newham, they need to feel that opportunity lives and thrives here. And investing in our local public spaces is a way for people to look at Newham, see that it's clean, see that it's vibrant, see that it's attracting outside people who want to spend, who want to come here to eat, and who may actually want to settle here and have a family and see that there is opportunity truly alive in Newham. There is potential, economic potential here, but there's also potential for increasing our inclusion. Newham is 70% of the global majority, and in a time at which our country has never felt more divided, it is important that no community is left behind. It's important that we are able to find sources of funding that means that local communities who might not have seen the regeneration that other parts of Newham has seen are able to walk down their streets and maybe see one less closed shop because somebody has decided to set up and work in Newham. Those things are truly important. Funding alone, like I said, will not solve every challenge, but Pride in Place can be the catalyst for long-term inclusive growth if approached with the right enthusiasm. So together with our colleagues, our local communities and our local leaders, we can make sure that every resident feels pride in place, pride in community and pride in Newham. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Onovo. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Kamali? You have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sabia Kamali from Stratford Ward. Proud to second this motion tonight. As a Labour councillor for Stratford, I see every day what investment or the lack of it means for local people. Stratford is full of energy and ambition, but too often our residents tell us they don't always feel the benefit of that change. That's why this 1.5 million Pride in Places funding really matters. It's not just another grant, it's an opportunity to make sure regeneration reaches the people and places that need it most, right across Newham. We know that 75% of our residents live in the most deprived 30% of our areas nationally. That didn't happen by accident. It's the result of over a decade of austerity, when councils like ours were asked to do more with less. And our communities have paid the price, losing libraries, youth centres and community space that brought people together. But here in Newham, we've never stopped believing in our communities. Through our high street improvement and investment strategy, we've already set out a vision for vibrant, safe and welcoming local centres, places where residents can shop, connect and feel proud of where they live. This new Pride in Place funding gives us a chance to go further, not just in Stratford, but every part of our borough deserves to benefit from this investment. What I particularly welcome in this motion is the commitment to involve ward councillors and local residents in shaping how the money is spent. We are closest to our communities. We hear directly what matters most to people, and what residents are genuinely involved. Projects last longer and mean more. Chair, this is more than money. It's about rebuilding connection and pride. We want High Street that feels safe and welcoming, small businesses that thrive and public spaces that bring people together instead of pushing them apart. That's what this motion represents, a chance to restore hope and confidence in the place people call home. So I am proud to second this motion and proud that once again, Newham is leading the way in showing what Labour in local government stands for: investment, inclusion and fairness for every community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Kamali. We will now move to the debate on the motion. Members, you have up to 3 minutes to speak. Can I have Councillor Shantu Ferdos and then Councillor Thelma Odoy and then we do have only 12 minutes for this, so I'm going to ask everyone to please keep their interventions short.
Good evening, Chair, and all of you. I'm Shantu Ferdos, Councillor for East Ham. I'm supporting this motion. Yes, it's a highly productive input from our central government, as Newham has been awarded a 1.5 million grant from government's Pride in Place programme to fund community-led improvement to high street and public space. Over the last 13 years, under the Conservative government, our high street has been neglected, with various aspects left unimproved. We were unable to attract well-known retailers to high street and attract visitors, which could boost our economy even more. And of course, our residents and young people want to use the clean, safer high streets. Many wards of East Ham, West Ham, Beckton and Stratford constituencies have a direct connection to our high street. I would like to urge LBN to assess the condition of our high street, identify needs, allocate the funds accordingly, and involve local councillors and residents in the process and finish improvement on time. Please, I urge you to support this motion.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Ferdos. Councillor Odoy, and then I will have Councillor Alam and Councillor Garfield. Can you please keep it very short? Thank you.
Good evening, all. I'm Councillor Thelma Odoy, councillor in Custom House. I've also lived in Custom House pretty much all my life. And for decades, we've been talking about and planning for the Custom House regeneration. It's in motion. However, over the decades, we have seen shops close down, organisations move, and our high street has become a lot more dull. This does affect the way you feel about your area, And with COVID, a lot of people are still at home and still not really coming out. We do want our community to come back out and be what it was before. And so I think that this is a great motion for us to vote for to make this happen. In Custom House, we are doing really well. We do have the Custom House bookshop, where a lot of our community congregate. We have Custom Made, where there's a lot of activities going on. And in Canning Town, we also have Robots, which is amazing. I did a massive storytelling session in the summer for children and tuition in Custom Made. So that was fantastic. However, we need more. We need more to make our young people, our children, our elderly, all of our communities come together intergenerationally and enjoy where we live. So please vote for this motion so that we, as local leaders and our residents, have power to make our areas a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alam.
Hi, good evening. Councillor Alam from Little Ilford Ward. Any investment is welcome. Newham is one of the borough require more funding. I also hope some fundings, some new resources will be available or find some new resources. However, I hope the money is distributed fairly. And I hope Little Ilford get fair share of the distribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alam. Councillor Garfield. You want to come as well? Okay, after this.
I'm really proud to be supporting Councillor Anova's motion this evening. I think it's an excellent one and a brilliant reminder for us as councillors as to what a Labour government can actually do, what a Labour government means for people here, because those of us who grew up in Newham, like I did and like I know Councillor Anova did, will remember the big promise of the 2012 Olympics, the big promise that was the brainchild of a Labour government and the late Dame Tessa Jow, who worked diligently to bring the Olympics to our borough. More investment than Stratford had ever seen and that we thought it would ever see. And then, unfortunately, we had to watch as the coalition government and then a series of, I lose count the number of Conservative governments, slowly chipped away at a lot of that promise. They didn't destroy it, because a lot of it stands and a lot of it we enjoy today. But they tried their best to chip away and to limit what that investment could do, because the investment that the government are bringing to Newham and that Stratford will enjoy, and I hope the whole borough will enjoy, should be a catalyst for growth, a catalyst for business people to actually open establishments in our borough that will attract commerce, create jobs. And I was particularly distressed to read that 20% of our pubs have closed in the last 10 years in that paper, as a lover of pubs myself. And if there are any aspiring publicans who want to bring that investment to our borough, anybody with a business idea, a sense of entrepreneurship, we welcome it. And this money from the government is not a handout, it's a catalyst for the sort of investment that we know our talented neighbours, friends, family and residents can make the very most of. So thank you, Councillor Anovo.
Thank you very much, Councillor Garfield. Mayor Fiaz.
Thank you, Chair. And I just similarly wanted to commend Councillor Melanie Onovo for presenting this motion this evening. It is right that there is an absolute focus on our local high streets as much as we focus on our big town centres that also are important drivers of growth. And I just wanted to alert all members this evening that there is a cabinet paper that's going to be published at some point before 12 o'clock that will be brought to Cabinet next week relating to the governance arrangements around the Pride of Place Impact Fund that we've received, which is the £1.5 million. And I appreciate that there is a real desire to see even more investment coming across all of the wards in this borough, so the wards that for so long had not had the investment because of a set of policy decisions that posited an arc of opportunity versus the rest of Newham, which was considered urban Newham, has been reversed. And just really to state that this is a welcomed addition to the circa £60 million that we've been spending in our borough across all of our neighbourhoods since 2018 under this administration, under this Labour administration, being supported by a Labour Mayor of London and a Labour government, thankfully, finally, once and for all.
Thank you very much, Mayor Fiaz. I will now move to right of reply. Councillor Onovo, do you wish to say anything further? Okay.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for all of your kind words, but also for recognising, the importance of investing into our local communities and the fact that that is not just an ambition, but a priority of the Labour government that we now have. It is true, being born and raised in Newham, a lot of hope came from the investment that came during the Olympics. And not that that hope has died, but there needs to be a revitalization of that energy to make sure that that kind of investment and growth and opportunity is seen across all sides of the borough and not just in specific areas in the borough. And that starts with what you would call kind of seed money like this that allows local residents to actually have a say in what it looks like in terms of inclusive growth in their neighborhoods. And that's something that I wholeheartedly support. Alongside, the Pride in Place Fund, you've also got, the 39 billion in affordable housing funding, in which London is receiving 11.8 billion of that, which is up from 4 billion that we received from 2016 to 2023 from the previous government. It's obvious that this Labour government, especially in the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, is investing in building communities. And whilst building homes is a priority, you have to build the things that come with homes. That is, schools, that is, local high streets, that is local economies that can only thrive if they're invested in. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Onovo. We will now move to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. So that's carried. I mean, everyone has put their hand up. Sorry, I should still do it. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. That is carried. I now move to item 18, which is conclusion of business. Just a final reminder to members to ensure that you've signed the attendance book, which is held at the Democratic Services desk. Pauline, I haven't signed it, so I will. Our next ordinary meeting is on Monday, the 8th of December. Thank you, everyone, for attending and watching. I now declare the meeting closed.